you are looking at Burkina Faso, it's no longer a Sahelian project. It is now an African project because Africans have had enough. Africans are tired. You cannot keep taking our natural resources and tell us that the highest royalty paid to any nation in Africa on their natural resources is 5%. 5% royalty.
In the history of the world, there have been wars. And during the Second World War, people organized themselves to defend all over the place. But there is a country that could not defend itself, which had to come and take our ancestors to go defend them. And today that same country wants to give us lessons. The pot calling the kettle black.
Everybody wants what you have. Now, Africa is a beautiful continent. Africa is the biggest continent. If you like, believe me. If you like, don't. I don't care. Everything on the periodic table is found in Africa. Everything. Unfortunately for the Europeans and the Western world, they cannot relocate the Africans. Now you really need those resources. So what do? You sponsor terror groups. Okay, they destabilize the country and then you sneak in, you steal what you want to steal and then you go out. You fund them, you train them, you equip them, and then you send them into the country to destabilize the country, and then the country will come running back to you again. Please help us. There are too much terrorists, and then they still depend on you to defend them. You see? Because you think you're smart. You sponsor the terrorism so that the government will run back to you, and then you give them a solution to the problem that you created. You're not from Africa, but you need the resources. So how can you get the resources? There are two ways you can do it. Either you trade for it, or you conquer them so that you can get the resources. Unfortunately for you, this is 21st century. You cannot go and start to wage war and say, hey, I want to conquer Africa so that I can get everything. So what do? You go for their leaders. So how do you go for their leaders? You make sure that the country is already impoverished. Then you lure their leaders into your country. They bring their children. They put them in schools in your countries. That is a way of control. Now, in that way, you control their leaders. Secondly, you give them houses, they build in your country. Some of them even have dual citizenship. There are leaders that have dual citizenship of European countries and Nigerian countries. So one leg is in Europe, one leg is in Africa. So you make sure that they are independent, but not independent enough to be very, very strong. And how do you keep them in check? They blackmail these leaders. Hey, I have your case file, I have your sex tape, I have your investigation, I know what you've been doing, so. Now the leaders become scared. Whatever the Europeans want, they do it. Whatever the Western world wants, they do it. They say, hey, don't forget that you have so hidden in so account. That is blackmail. They blackmail your leaders into submission, guys. That is the story of Africa. Unfortunately, we have a lot of betrayers, people that don't care about us. How many European billionaires have houses in Africa? But I can assure you, all the African billionaires have houses in Europe. Now, we know is a fact that 80% of terrorism is sponsored from the Western world. Like 95. It's a fact. This is 21st century. Nothing is hidden. Like, they are not even hiding it anymore. It's obvious. Yes, we sponsor terrorism in your country. You know it. It's obvious. The number of people that have been killed in Africa is enough to repopulate the earth over again. A lot of people have lost their lives, guys, and it's not because of anything, it's because of the minerals. TikTok said this is African Week, and they said I should say something about Africa. That is what I want to say about Africa. Africa should be free. Africa deserves to be free.
How did I know? The former president of Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, was kicked out of office by the West because he said, I am not taking 5% royalty on the natural resources that are in the land of my fathers. They say, why? He said, how can you give me 5% royalty? Are we not supposed to have an agreement on how this is done? Are you not supposed to come into partnership and tell me what you bring to the table? I'll tell you, okay, I own this, you take this, I take that. No, you don't have that right if you're in Africa. They told him, Mr. President, you should be happy because the 5% we're offering you, there are only 3 countries in Africa that have up to 5%. The rest are lower. So Garland, we have less. Which is why the wife of the president of Sierra Leone, sitting president, was complaining. She just complained recently. The video went viral, and she was saying to everyone that, listen, we are given 0.0001% royalty on the gold. Sierra Leone is a gold coast. It's a gold coast. But if you visit Sierra Leone today, it's like a pardon my language. Sierra Leone is a shadow It's not even, you can't even find where to put your feet. So backward, so messed up, so devastated economically. But if you imagine if the gold in that country was being nationalized the way Ibrahim Traoré is nationalizing the wealth of his country right now, everybody from Sierra Leone would have been living so big, you won't see any one of them going to queue for visas to travel anywhere. This is what is happening to countries in Africa. And this is why every African diasporan must pay attention and must back what is happening in the Sahel. Because if we can consolidate and hold down what has happened in Sahel, many more victories will roll in. If we let them touch any one of those guys, we are done. Psychologically, they will weaken us. And you won't see any revolution anywhere again. But thank God for the gift of Russia in times like this. I believe that the rivalry, or not even the rivalry, the animosity between Russia and the West was created by heaven so that we can have our freedom. So that's why today it is not easy for them to take him out like they would have before. He wouldn't even have lasted 2 years in power. He's been there for more. And so much is happening in Burkina Faso.
You know, I knew when I heard him first say, I didn't know much about him. And then the first thing I was reading, and he said, you know, he was in Russia and they had, it was like an Africa summit, and various African leaders were saying things. And when what he said was, what, they were asking for help and things like that. And what he said was, why are we going around the world begging when we're so rich? And I knew, this guy's looking at this thing as something different. He's not looking at it as we're weak and we have to ask everybody for help. And what he recognized the strength of Africa and said, we have to exercise our strength. We are not poor. We are not beggars. And the vision of him, he's a big, strong guy. You know, you look at him, he's a big, strong guy. And he wears his military uniform, you know, the uniform of armed struggle. And the way he talks is, it's not anger, it's confidence. It's strength. And as soon as you hear him, you say, yeah, that guy, he means business. And he's not weak. He's not begging. He's not asking. He's saying, we have a right to this and we will have it.
Yes. Because, Garland, passion is infectious. When you see passion, no one explains it to you. You can feel it. It's very infectious, very relatable. When you see Ibrahim Traoré, the reason we call him an archetype is because he is an embodiment of all the cries and the weeping and the pains of Africa. He's not the only one in the Sahel. Remember, the revolution began in Mali, and we have to give it up for that brother in Mali who held it together until Burkina Faso then happened. And then you had Niger Republic. It was the motivation of Mali. It was Mali that motivated this Burkina Faso, that inspired Burkina Faso to happen. And Burkina Faso inspired Niger Republic to happen. And the three of them are now inspiring many other revolutionaries and revolutions that are breeding right now, that are sitting in different parts of Africa. There are so many more that are going to fall in. Mark my words, in no distant time, you're going to see many more African countries. And that is the essence of making sure that Ibrahim Traoré is protected. Ibrahim Traoré only just happens to be the one that has been singled out as the poster child for what God is about to do on the continent of Africa. He's not the only one, but he has been singled as a sign. When I made a particular video I put out some time ago, I said, Ibrahim Traoré is the sign from God. A single human being that became a sign of an entire revolutionary process. That's who he has become. So when you hear him speak, you will feel it. You will see it coming. You can feel the fire in his bones. And he's very calm and calculated. He knows exactly that our time has come. They said you cannot defeat an idea whose time has come. How can you defeat it? This idea has been there. It's been there for so many years. Many of our forefathers died hoping and believing that this day will come. But eventually, it pleased God that it will happen in our own lifetime. And it is happening right now. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. That is why, Garland, can you believe it? You think it's fake news? More than 18 to 20 assassination attempts on Ibrahim Traoré, all of them failed. And I can bet you today, he is not the only one they're trying to take out. You can imagine how many assassination attempts Assimi Goïta of Mali has also endured. You can imagine how many that Chiani of Niger Republic has also endured. But now they are targeting Ibrahim Traoré because Burkina Faso is now the place, like the headquarters of the AES nations, the Sahel states that have broken with the colonial powers. So Burkina Faso is the security headquarters for them. That's where almost everything is coordinated from. So they want to target and destroy this one that has come out as the symbol of the revolution, so that the moment they do it, every other person will be psychologically incapacitated. And the rest of Africa will crawl back into their cocoons, crawl back into their shells and say, well, I said it before, we are never going to be free. We are not meant to be free. A lot of Africans already believe that we are not meant to be free from the colonial powers. That's why you have puppets all over the place. Puppets giving their whole life to serve the colonial powers in the 21st century. Garland, these are our brothers, because they are cowards. They have given up. They no longer believe that miracles are possible to happen on the continent. They gave up hope. That's why. So the colonials used them. Look at Cameroon. Look at so many parts of Africa. Leaders, so-called leaders in power for generations. And France is so happy. And yet General Malcolm Langley is coming to tell us that the problem of the world is Ibrahim Traoré that just came to power in 2022. But you have the guy in Cameroon and in different other parts of Africa who have done decades in power, nothing but tyranny on their people. And then allowing France and colonials to steal all the money and take them away. That's all they've done. Nobody cares about the people who are dying and languishing in poverty. But the one man who has come out with his brothers in the Sahel region to say, enough is enough. Africa belongs to Africans. We don't want to exist alone as Africans. We want to do business. We want to be partners with every other person, but it has to be a win-win. You cannot make it a win-lose in favor of the colonials on something that belongs to me. No, enough is enough.
Ibrahim Traoré isn't just a president. He's become a symbol. He embodies the spirits of Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, and Muammar Gaddafi, visionaries silenced for daring to dream of a sovereign Africa. Traoré is the reincarnation of their fight, born into a time when the people are finally ready. Africa is changing. From the Sahel to the diaspora, a shift in consciousness is taking root. People aren't just watching anymore, they're waking up. Traoré's presence at the May 9th parade in Moscow wasn't just symbolic, it was a declaration. Gone is the internalized inferiority. What stands now is a new generation ready to take back what was stolen, politically, economically, and spiritually. But first, the truth must be known. France, with zero gold in its soil, holds the 4th largest gold reserves on Earth. How? By pillaging nations like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, where literal gold kingdoms lie in poverty. In 2012 alone, 14 African nations paid over $500 billion into France's bank system. Not loans, not investments, colonial tax. And this time, the people have the power. Social media has replaced colonial newsrooms. Citizen reporting now exposes every injustice in real time. From London to Lagos, the diaspora is organizing, demonstrating, donating, defending. With over 20 failed assassination attempts on Traoré, the stakes couldn't be higher. The colonial powers want their symbol of resistance eliminated. But the people know, if he falls, the momentum falters. They want to psychologically cripple the rest of Africa. That's the goal, but it won't happen. If you are not a coward, if you are not corrupt, you cannot be president in Africa today. The colonials made sure of that. So when military revolutions rise, like in Mali or Burkina Faso, many cheer, because these coups don't install tyrants, they remove puppets. And for the first time in decades, Africa is reclaiming its own narrative. Tell us what you think in the comment. Like and share to friends and family. See you in the next video.